August 22nd, 2001, John O'Neill, considered the FBI's leading authority on Al-Qaeda, resigns from the FBI. He says it is because of repeated obstruction of his investigations into Al-Qaeda. Following his resignation, he is offered a job as the head of security for the World Trade Center. On September 10th, he moves into his new office on the 34th floor of the North Tower. That night, he tells colleague Jerry Hauer, "We're due for something big." O'Neill is killed the next day in 9/11 attacks. On August 6, 2001, President Bush is given a memo entitled Bin Laden Determined to Strike in the U.S. There was no further discussion before September 11th among the president and his top advisors of the possibility of a threat of an al-Qaeda attack in the United States. On Friday, September 7th, 2001, Jeb Bush, governor of Florida, signs Florida Executive Order number 01261. His Florida Executive Order places the Florida National Guard, which is not a lawful militia, a unit of the federal U.S. Army, in control of all Florida law enforcement. Why did fighter jets fail to scramble from Andrews Air Force Base, with the skies over Washington, D.C. remaining virtually unprotected a full 85 minutes after the first of multiple planes were known to be hijacked? The first reports of a hijacking took place at approximately 8:15. 30 minutes later, the first tower was hit. 45 minutes later, the second tower was hit. The media began reporting that possibly as many as 8 planes were unaccounted for and possibly hijacked. Approximately 65 minutes later, Vice President Dick Cheney was moved to an underground bunker as members of the Secret Service reported that a plane was possibly headed for Washington, D.C. An astounding 85 minutes later, at 9:40, the Pentagon was struck. Andrews Air Force Base, charged with defending the nation's capital, was only 11 miles away from the Pentagon and failed to scramble one fighter jet. In the first 9 months of 2001, the Air Force scrambled jets 67 times in response to relatively minor anomalies, including deviated flight plans, loss of radio contact, loss of transponder signal, or unruly passengers. It is standard protocol for NORAD to scramble jets given these scenarios. Yet on 9/11, standard protocol was not followed. And then there is this report from the New York Times. At least 6 air traffic controllers who dealt with 2 of the hijacked airliners on September 11, 2001, made a tape recording that same day describing the events. But the tape was destroyed by a supervisor without anyone making a transcript or even listening to it, the Transportation Department said in a report today. It was later destroyed by an FAA official describing the report as a quality assurance manager. That manager crushed the cassette in his hand, shredded the tape, and dropped the pieces into different trash cans around the building. Now that's not too suspicious, is it? And in a bizarre so-called coincidence on the morning of September 11th, the CIA was running an alleged simulation to explore the emergency response issues that would be created if a plane were to strike a building. Less than an hour before the World Trade Center attacks, Donald Rumsfeld told a congressional delegation that a shocking event would occur soon. I had said at 8 o'clock breakfast, sometime in the next 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 months, there would be an event that would occur in the world that would be sufficiently shocking that would remind people, again, how important it is to have a strong, healthy Defense Department. The section of the Pentagon that was struck was the only section of the Pentagon that had been renovated or was able to withstand more of an impact. What luck! The plane happened to hit the section of the Pentagon that had just been reinforced and evacuated. The renovation program included the following improvements to the building. Exterior walls had been reinforced with steel, exterior walls backed with Kevlar, and blast-resistant windows had been installed.
I don't think anybody anticipated the breach of the levees.
The Federal Aviation Administration records show Hanjour, the pilot, alleged to have hit the Pentagon, obtained a commercial pilot's license in April 1999. But how and where he did so remains a lingering question that FAA officials refuse to discuss. Air traffic controllers watching the plane that struck the Pentagon remarked, "The speed, the maneuverability, the way that he turned, we all thought in the radar room, all of us experienced air traffic controllers, that was a military plane," says O'Brien. But just as the plane seemed to be on a suicide mission into the White House, the unidentified pilot, Hanjour, executed a pivot so tight that it reminded observers of a fighter jet maneuver. The plane circled 270 degrees to the right to approach the Pentagon from the west and struck the one renovated, reinforced, and evacuated section of the Pentagon. According to the Washington Post, aviation sources said that the plane was flown with extraordinary skill, making it highly likely that a trained pilot was at the helm. Yet, according to Hanjour's flight instructors, they found he had trouble controlling and landing the single-engine Cessna 172. In fact, in 2001, he was using a Boeing 737 simulator. Because his performance struck his flight instructors as substandard, they discouraged Hanjour from continuing.
According to Michael Meacher, it is clear the U.S. authorities did little or nothing to preempt the events of 9/11. It is known that at least 11 countries provided advance warning to the U.S. of the 9/11 attacks. It is not surprising that some have seen the U.S. failure to avert the 9/11 attacks as creating an invaluable pretext for attacking Afghanistan in a war that was clearly already planned in advance. Paul Heller, former National Defense Minister of Canada. As a former Minister of National Defense, when the news came out, I had to wonder, why did airplanes fly around for an hour and a half without interceptors being scrambled from Andrews Air Force Base? Why did the President just sit in the schoolroom when he heard the 9/11 news? Why did he not acknowledge that he already knew what was going on? Andreas von Bülow, former German Intelligence Minister. Pearl Harbor was not a surprise to the American government, only to the American people. And 9/11 is just another Pearl Harbor. War was prepared long before the terror acts of 9/11. Getting to the bottom of this crime begins with questioning the official theory. Dr. Robert Bowman, a United States Air Force colonel and director of the Institute for Space and Security Studies. The U.S. government at the highest levels may have committed treason and mass murder by purposely allowing 9/11 to happen.